this couple in the front here. They're from Brookline, and they thought the Mass started at 8 a.m. this morning. So some people camp out for Mass. Huh? So they went and got breakfast and they came back. That's a miracle, huh? So it's nice to have you here. Most Catholics parachute in the last minute. They come 3 hours before. You deserve special treatment, huh? Every summer, the University of Pittsburgh runs a program for high school students. This year they had 88 high school students in this 4-week program. It's entitled UPHCSA, that's the acronym, which means University of Pittsburgh Health Career Scholastic Academy. And these are the best and the brightest and talented youngsters in our high school who are aspiring to investigate what they might become one day. And they go to local facilities and institutions to accompany people in their professional work environment. They work with healthcare, the chronically ill, families, behavioral health, geriatric people, global health, public health. Every year they come to Mercy as well. And I got 2 of the high school students. They were from North Allegheny this week, high school. Juniors, 2 girls. Ashley was born in Southern Korea. And as you know, Korea is mainly Buddhist, huh? But she was a non-denominational Christian. And the other girl, her name was Shreya. And she was from Bombay, India. And most people in India are Hindu. And she was a Hindu. So all day on Wednesday, they visited patients here in the hospital. The 3 of us, a Catholic priest, one from Southern Korea and one from Bombay, India, would descend upon each patient's room, if you can imagine, huh? I was wondering how a patient takes all this in, huh? So at the end of the day, I asked Ashley from Korea, what was most memorable and meaningful to you in your day? She said, in the emergency room, all the different languages that people spoke. I was intrigued by that, and I found that very interesting. And the girl from Bombay, India, Srila, she said, I really learned you need to be a good listener because everybody has a story. And she said, if you're going to be an agent to heal and love somebody, you better listen well. I think that's what the readings are about this weekend. The word hospital originates from the Latin word hospes, H-O-S-P-E-S, which means guest, stranger. The root of the word, we get hospice, hotel, hostel, hospitality, hospital. To welcome strangers. They're guests. We're serving them. The patient comes from the Latin word patior, P-A-T-I-O-R, which means one who suffers. So let's take together the word hospital and patient. Etymologically, a place of strangers who gather in suffering to be cared for by strangers. That's what a hospital is. An institution where the sick and the injured come for medical care and compassion. Well, according to our Judeo-Christian belief, there is no finer work than offering hospitality to those entrusted to our care. Throughout the corridors of the centuries of time, Christian tradition always had this adage in Latin, Veni hospes, veni Christus. When a guest comes, Christ comes. Some people have that on their doors today. When a guest comes, Christ comes. St. Paul, in his epistle to the Romans, says, make hospitality your special care, in Romans chapter 12, verse 13. So the mission of the gospel is a mission of hospitality, welcoming others in their particular needs and their desires. It's more about listening than doing. Oftentimes, I think we have an illness in our American culture where people become functionaries. They're human doings rather than human beings. And the problem that I have with technology and the inundation of information is we forget to be because we're so doing. Discipleship demands being and not just doing. The ministry of hospitality and welcoming others is so critical for our parishes and our communities. And oftentimes, our Protestant brothers and sisters do this far better than we do. Now, in the book of Genesis, Abraham gets visitors. Now, visitors in that time were rare. And when a visitor would come, they usually were good storytellers, and they had pearls of wisdom that would offer blessings of future gifts. With that in mind, these nomadic people come. They came then and they come now, today. And it was called a desert hospitality, where we have southern hospitality, okay? It required that you would offer them food, water, and shelter to strangers up to 3 days. When my aunt would come to visit us from Salem, Ohio, she never married. And I grew up in a family of 7 children. She always felt sorry for her sister, my mom, that she had to take care of 7 children. Clothe them and feed them and chop for them and do all that, take them to church. So she came 3 times a year and she would stay 3 days. And she would help my mom out. She says after 3 days, visitors stink like fish. They smell. So Abraham, he welcomes these passerbyers, these guests. He welcomes them to the tent and shows them hospitality. And guess what? Sarah's in the tent. And Sarah's given a promise, because you've been so hospitable to me. In a year from now, you're going to have a child. You're going to have a son. That's what every stranger brought. A pearl of wisdom of God. A glimpse of God. We call that a theophany of God, a manifestations of God. We get splashes of God in our lives every day, friends. We have to discern them, don't we? In the gospel today, we hear a remarkable and beautiful incident. Jesus is going to, and he stops at a house in Bethany. And brothers and sisters live there. There's Martha, Mary, and Lazarus. And it's stunning that Jesus goes to this home as a Jewish rabbi, and he's with 2 women. That was unconventional. It broke all social norms. It was unheard of that in a private space, a Jewish rabbi would be alone with these 2 women, 2 sisters. Well, Jesus is going to Jerusalem to suffer and die for us. He needs a little R&R, and these 2 sisters meet him. They both have a different disposition, different temperament, like every one of us do. It said that the contemplative arm of the church is Mary, and the apostolic arm of the church is Martha. Well, when Jesus arrives to their home, Martha is very lavish and very generous, isn't she? She's eager to celebrate and have an elaborate meal and roll out the red carpet for this guest Jesus. Martha wanted everything to be just so for her special guest. She knocked herself out. The food was cooked to perfection. The house was spotless. The kitchen was immaculate. She kept knocking herself out at every length. She was the hostess of the mostest. But all of a sudden, something changes. And she says to Jesus, "Hey, don't you care? My sister, she's not picking up the load. She's at wit's end. She's exhausted and she's frustrated. She represents all of us. We're frantic. We're divided. We lose our focus in life. We're running here, there. Everybody's vying for our attention. We can't meet up to all the expectations of what everyone wants and asks of us that we just get so collapse mode. Jesus isn't searching for a 7-course meal. He just wants a little rest, a little relaxation, and a little attention. Loving gaze. Isn't it beautiful when you go to a restaurant, you see older folks, they're just looking at each other. They're not talking, they just gaze on each other. You look like the one you love, right? Yes. I see it all the time, and I know you do too. Jesus needs this oasis of peace away from the demanding crowds that are after him all the time. And he praises Mary. He singles her out for listening attentively at his feet. That was a sign of discipleship. The Acts of the Apostles tells us that. Mary was engrossed on every word that Jesus spoke. When Jesus spoke in the New Testament, oftentimes people were spellbound. They wanted to hang on to every word he said. And then Jesus gives her the ultimate praise by saying, Mary chose the best part. He didn't discredit what Martha was doing. No, he didn't criticize her. No, he said, Mary knew the unum necessarium, the one thing necessary. And the one thing necessary is to turn to God as the axis of our being every day. Then we're going to do God's will. We can be torn in myriads of places every day, friends, and so preoccupied with many demands that we're drained at the end of the day. We go home and we can't love the ones who we've committed to. We're too drained. Work has taken everything out of us. We don't have anything left to give the people we love. That's a shame. I had all these responsibilities and all these tasks and all these demands placed on me today and all these expectations. I'm tired. I just want to take it easy. They said that St. Catherine of Genoa, she used to be so preoccupied in prayer that she appeared that she was in a trance. They said that Abraham was in a trance when he experienced these 3 guests. I don't need to tell you, friends, we live in a world that's much more Martha-oriented than Mary-oriented, don't we? We live in a world that's very hectic, non-stop, 24/7. We live in a very stressed culture. We live in a culture that does not lend itself to contemplative reflection, quiet, and stillness. But if we listen best and God's first in our lives, we'll seek to hear the voice of God by gathering at his feet and hearing and heeding his message through his word. We can run the risk on any day to delete the voice of God in the landscape of our humanity. We all have many things to do, but the one necessary thing to do is to love, both through prayer and in our action. We need to be, if you will, a place of a space that offers outstanding hospitality. But if we're too tired, and we're too drained, and we're overworked, and we're too preoccupied, we won't love the people God places in our lives. May we take this week to not miss the opportunity to love, to give love, and to receive love. May we not forget to count our blessings each day and the joys of living. Some people are like Atlas. They're carrying the weight of the world on their shoulders every day. Forget it. Christ carried that on the cross to set us free. At the end of the day, 3 of us went to visit all these patients here at Mercy Hospital. One came from Southern Korea, and one came from Mumbai, India. It was a hazy, hot, and humid summer day here at Mercy. And we went to visit them, hopefully just to offer the presence of our witness. and over our own faith.
Yeah.
With each room I went to, I thought of the girl from Mumbai, India, when I was a high school boy in high school at Canada. A priest from Mumbai, India came and preached the gospel, and it changed my life, that I gave my life to be a priest. On Wednesday, Shreya from Mumbai, India, just the presence of someone from the same country in the same city as Father Victor Rocha. I felt the presence and the power and the prayers along the journey. And it was very special.